Hey everybody, welcome to our tutorial on importing external 3D motions into CrazyTalk Animator 2. In this tutorial I'm going to be showing you exactly how to do that, taking a free 3D motion from the web, converting it in 3D Exchange, and then importing it to our character in CrazyTalk Animator 2. So as you can recall, we already had a tutorial on importing iMotions to CrazyTalk Animator 2. So I'm in iClone right now, so for example, if I use my this groove motion here from my Street Dance Popping pack, you can see I can apply it to this character here. This character is actually from one of our developers, Celigon. You can see it kind of goes into that little dance groove right there. So that's the 3D motion you can see on this character right here. Now, if we just go back and drag that into our CrazyTalk Animator, let's do the same thing. So we'll just grab that from our Content Manager, go to CrazyTalk Animator, and we can apply it directly to Sol here in the CrazyTalk Animator. And that is a 3D motion, so as you can maybe be able to recall, you can perform that motion from a number of different angles. So if I, for example, change him to this 45-degree angle here, you can do the same thing. Or we can also change him to the 90-degree angle, just like this. And so that's how cool it is you can basically take any iMotion from iClone and apply it to your character in CrazyTalk Animator. For this example, I'm going to show you how you can take any motion you can find on any site in the web, and you can do the same thing with that. So this is a little bit more complicated than the iMotion, so let's get right into it. Let's go to our browser first, and we want to start off, we're at TurboSquid here. It's not really known for motions, but we can find some here. I'm going to search for hip-hop dance, and we'll see what that comes up with. So you can see hip-hop dance, we have a number of motions here. You can preview them. I'm just going to choose this free one for now, because free is always the best. So we'll just click that, and you can see that this is a hip-hop dance, and we can get a little preview of this dance, what it's going to look like. You can see it's a little bit fast here, but essentially that's the motion that we're going to import into CrazyTalk Animator 2. So let's go ahead and download this. Go to free download here on the top, and then we can just basically select it, and we can just download it right away. And once this is finished downloading, we'll just extract it, and there we go. There it is in our Google Chrome. So we'll just go ahead and open, and we have this right here, this R&B dance. Let's just extract this to our desktop. We'll go ahead and just copy it to our desktop right away here. Press OK. And then we should have an R&B dance on our desktop. So let's go ahead and close this down. Let's go to our desktop here. You can see there it is, rbdance21.fbx. So I have this as an FBX file. So what I want to do is I want to drag this into our 3D Exchange now. 3D Exchange is a conversion program that converts external motions and models for use in iClone, and in this case CrazyTalk Animator 2. So let's go ahead and click and drag that, and I'm going to load up my 3D Exchange. There we go. And drag that in. Now here, since we're only importing motion, we don't really have to worry about any material issues or any smooth curves. We just have to make sure that import animation is checked off, and we'll go OK. And this will import in some weird stick-looking dude here. Now this is the actual bone for the bone data for the motion. Now what I want to do is go ahead and convert this to iClone format. So you can see now if I just select the motion in my motion library here in the animation section, I can press play, and you can see this is the motion that we're going to be importing. That little stick there is the root, and this is where the character is going to be moving. Kind of just dancing around, doing a whole 3D move, and then back to the beginning point. So that's the motion that we're going to be importing. So let's go ahead and go down here, and we want to select Convert to Non-Standard. Now what this will do is this will make this motion compatible with all of iClone's rigs, and in this case CrazyTalk Animator rigs as well. So I happen to know that this is a rig coming from, or this is a motion coming from 3ds Max. So we have presets up here. If I just select 3ds Max biped, you can see that all of my bones will be mapped. So basically you can see that everything is good to go, and we have a green circle here, which means we can now convert this to an iClone character motion. So if we select active, we can test this out. For example, let's go ahead and select basic run, and you can see that what's happening here? We have his arms are kind of flailing behind the body, and it looks a little bit weird. So let's go ahead and stop this. let's go to our T-pose. We need to set our T-pose correctly first. So we'll preview the T-pose, and currently this doesn't really look like a T. So we can either adjust this manually by moving the bones, or we can just deselect the active box, and we can select Load T-pose. And in T-pose we have a 3ds Max biped, so we can just select that T-pose, and then go open, and then boom, this is what we want exactly. So this is how our character, or our rig is going to start off. And then if we select active now, you can see that the legs will spread out a little bit. Let's take a look at the basic run. You can see that now it looks okay, but the legs are still a bit spread out. So let's go ahead and offset that, the feet here. We want to make sure that we're in contact setup here. So let's go over here. Then we have hip offset. Let's make sure this is in a T-pose so we can get a better look at it. So we're in the T-pose now. What we need to do is kind of just make those feet a little bit closer together. Maybe for spacing we can select auto, and you can see that that will automatically put them into the recommended position there. So that's what we want exactly right there. If our character is leaning forward or backward, we can also adjust the hip offset. If I put this to 0, for example, he'll be leaning a little bit too far back. So let's go ahead and just leave that like -10 or something. Try and get it as straight up as possible, and then we're good to go. So what that's doing is that's kind of aligning the motion data from this motion with our iClone rig. So let's go ahead and now we can convert. We're done all that. That's all we need to do. So let's go ahead and convert, and we just go ahead and select OK for this. We can select apply to iClone to view the result. But basically this motion is as it should be. Now what I want to do is I want to save this motion to iClone. Now I need to make sure that it's also in the Perform editor here. So this motion here is in the Perform editor. We can just call this whatever we want. We can name it anything. Let's go ahead and maybe call it, we can just call it Cool Dance, something like that. All right, and then just press enter and that'll save. So you can see it's 668 frames long. Now what I can do here is I can go up here to export to iClone, or else just press Control E. So once I do that, we don't need to export the geometry because it's just a stick figure. So we'll just deselect that. But we do need to select Export Animation. And here we can select the default destination, which would be the custom motion folder within iClone, which I can show you later. Or we can select Other. In this case, I'll just leave it at Other. And I'm going to export it to my desktop. And I'm going to press OK. And that's just going to export that motion to my desktop. So now we have an iMotion that's correctly aligned to our default iClone rig. So I'm just going to minimize this for now, go back to our desktop, and there you can see we have Cool Dance. Now that's our motion, that's the FBX, that's basically the universal version, and that's the version that's converted for use with iClone. So let's go ahead and see what happens if I drag this into iClone. So let's go ahead into iClone here, there we are, and we'll just apply this to our character. And you can see that this is the result right here. And we have this guy doing his cool R&B dance. And that's how easy it is to bring the motions into iClone with the raw data. And if you find that maybe this guy's shoulders are a little bit too high at the first point, you can select Edit Motion Layer. You can select the shoulders and mirror that and just bring that down. So he's kind of starting at a more natural pose right there, and then play it back. Maybe that looks a little bit more natural. He's not kind of arching his shoulders up so much. Now, if we wanted to save that modified motion, we can press F3, go into our timeline, and we can go into our motion track here, and you can see we have that motion clip right there. That should be 600 something odd frames long, and we'll select Collect Clip, and we can just click and drag in the Collect Clip track, and right click, and then we can go Add Motion Plus to 3D Exchange, or we can add motion to the library. It doesn't really matter. In this case, what I'm just going to do is select Add Motion to Library. That's going to save as a 3D motion. Now we can save this to any folder we want. Let's just go ahead and save it to the desktop again. We'll just call it Cool Dance 2 and press Save. Now you don't have to do this if your original motion is okay. I just thought the shoulders were a little bit high. You won't really be able to notice that in CrazyTalk Animator 2, but I just wanted to create a second version just to show you if you wanted to modify it in iClone, you can actually do that, and then you can export it into CrazyTalk Animator 2. But both versions are actually going to be okay. So let's go ahead back to our desktop here, and now you can see we have Cool Dance 2. This is the eye clone motion that I saved right here. Let's go ahead and drag this into CrazyTalk Animator now. So it's an eye motion now, should be able to be used in CrazyTalk Animator. Let's go ahead and just apply that over the top one. Now you can see basically our character Saul doing the hip hop dance, and you can see he's fully compatible. This character has all 8 angles, so you can see the motion from all different angles. Now, if you wanted to maybe modify a couple things in this, let's say for example, if we go down to about here, maybe when he's kind of moving his leg like that, let's go. So basically when he's moving around like this, if you wanted to like modify anything, let's say for example this part, it's kind of a little bit jittery. If I play this back, you can see that right leg is kind of just jittering. And if we wanted to avoid that, there's a couple of things we could do. Probably the best thing to do would be just to modify the motion slightly using the 3D motion editor. So let's press F3 and go into the timeline. I have my character selected, and let's use this object related track. We can close down our project track and just open up the 3D motion track for Saul. Let's zoom in a little bit on our timeline. Here we are, right here. So this is about where that jittering is taking place. If I go frame by frame, you can see we're getting a little bit of jittering right there in those few frames. So maybe about right here, let's go ahead and add a keyframe. Maybe about up there, maybe. We just need to double click in the 3D motion layer track, and that will create a keyframe. And in addition, that will also bring up the 3D motion key editor on the right hand side here. So once we do that, we have our keyframe there. Let's just double click that. And maybe this point right here where he's kind of jittering his leg, we can go ahead and just have our character, zoom in on our character rig over here. And let's just go ahead and select his calf. Now we need to make sure we unlock his feet, so his feet won't be for that particular leg. Press the E hotkey to rotate and move that down. Something like that might be a little bit more suitable. And let's see what happens. So there we go. We're kind of, we got rid of that jittering. Now we're just kind of taking a step. And then at this point over here, maybe we can go ahead and reset that back to the original motion clip data. And that'll make sure that nothing is jittering any longer. So there we have that flawless step right there. Now one other thing you may have noticed if you were quick enough is we can just go back to the beginning here. When he's doing his dance, you can see he's kind of going ahead, just moving his arm around. Now at this point here, he kind of moves his hand through his head, which is kind of physically impossible. You can see that right there. So maybe if we just wanted to avoid that situation where his hand's kind of going through his head, we can just maybe, there you go, it's coming back out through his mouth as well. So maybe at this point here, before he goes through his head right there, let's just go ahead and add a keyframe there. I will do this motion key editor trick one more time. We'll just select his forearm and we'll move that forearm. We'll go back to this frame actually, go ahead to this frame. And then we'll just go ahead and move that forearm a little bit out. There we go, just so it's not going through his head there. And there you go, so now we have this. And maybe at this point, it needs to be out a little bit further as well. It's kind of going through his hair there. In addition to this, there's another thing you can do, which I'll show you in just a moment. And there we go. And then maybe at this point, just refresh it back to the original motion clip data. So we should be able to, there we go. Instead of going through his head, he's kind of just, you know, going to the side there a little bit. And that's a little bit better. Alright, so that's some simple 3D motion key editing there. Now the other way to fix that motion that I just, the arm motion that I just edited, is if I don't want to change the actual motion, I just want to change the layers, I can actually just, we'll go ahead and select all of these keys here. And I'm just going to delete all those keyframes. So let's go ahead and do this one more time. This time we're going to be messing with the layers. So you can see at this point he's kind of going, you know, through his head right there. I'm going to make it so that his arm is continually in front of his face. So to do this, we need to use the layer editor down here. Let's select the layer editor. And the layer editor is actually a 2D motion editing tool. So let's go ahead and close down our 3D motion track, open our 2D motion track, and you can see that we have the layer track available right there. Let's just go ahead and at this point, what I want to do is I want to make sure that my hand, I select my hand on the little dummy here to the right, is in front of my head, and my forearm is in front of my head as well. And you can see that layer key goes in the timeline right there. Now you can see that, oh, it's kind of still behind his face, but the rest of it will be okay. So maybe at this point, since it's just basically, even though we adjusted the layer, the arm is physically too far behind his head to kind of appear up at front. So let's go ahead and right at that point, we'll go into our, select our character here. Whoops, we can close down the layer editor first. And we need to do a little bit of that 3D motion editing as well. And we'll just select that forearm, move that a little bit forward. I think is this. Let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit closer. You can see that the actual arm is behind the head, so there's no way it can really appear in front of it. We can just go ahead and kind of swing that out a little bit until it's, there we go. That should be, oh, maybe a little bit to the side. If it's physically too far behind, it won't really matter because it'll just be the layer, the physical position will take priority over the layer. So you can see, let's test this out. There we go. Okay, so then we're good to go. And here at this point, we can just go back to our layer editor. We can actually just also reset our arm right here and open our 3D motion track. We have our 2 keyframes right there. Make sure that we still maintain that. Yep, we're good to go. And maybe at this point here as well, we can also go to our layer tool, and then we can go ahead and reset that back to normal simply by pressing this release button here. And you can see that those that layer adjustment only lasts from this frame to that frame. So let's go ahead and make sure that that looks okay. All right, there you go. So if you don't want to adjust the actual position, too much of your character's limbs, you can also use a combination of layer tools as well. So this one, his hand is in front of his face. The one that we previously did, his hand was to the side. So if you don't want to, mess that up, you can go ahead and use it this way. So basically, that's it. You can kind of a number of different ways you can refine your motion. And I wanted to mention as well, you can go to Edit, and you can go to whoops, we need to have our character selected first. Let's close down the layer editor here. We need to go up to Edit, and we can select Affected by 3D Motion. And you should be familiar with this stuff from our iMotion tutorial. You can select whether or not to adjust the layer order to have CrazyTalk Animator calculate that layer order. You can adjust whether or not you want to have sprite replacement and the perspective strength as well. So if I'm playing back at this point, you saw the playback already. If I increase the perspective strength to something like 5, we'll go ahead and press OK. And you can see now that if I play back, there should be much more of a 3D effect, and he kind of seems to go a lot further back into the distance there, still doing his pretty cool dance. And especially when he comes forward, you can really see that feeling of depth from the motion there. All right, so then we have that all set up. Let's go ahead and press F3, go into our timeline, and we can save this as a 3D motion clip as well. So let's go ahead and select Collect Clip, and we need to select the duration of our animation here, and right-click that, similar to iClone. And we can select Export 3D Motion, since this is a 3D motion. We'll go ahead and select that, and that'll export to our custom folder. Let's just call this Cool Dance CTA. And it'll save as a CT 3D motion file. And we'll go ahead and press Save. And then we have our motion saved. So let's go ahead back to frame 1. Let's bring in another character. Let's give Saul a friend here. We can bring in Emma right here. Bring in Emma right beside Saul. And once Emma is applied to our scene, we can go ahead and drag that animation to her. Let's get them at relatively the same height here. And animation, and where you'll find your animation is in the custom tab right here, and in motion. If you saved it as a 3D motion, you can see that we have Cool Dance CTA with a 3D icon indicator in the top. We can just click and drag that onto Emma. And now we have a dance troupe. They're dancing together in unison. this 3D motion that we took from TurboSquid from an external 3D source, free on the internet, and applied it to our 2D characters in CrazyTalk Animator 2. So that's about it for this tutorial. If you have any questions, you can check out our forums or email me, developer@reallusion.com. So thanks for watching, and hopefully you can find some cool 3D motions to apply to your CrazyTalk Animator characters as well.